So, good afternoon, everyone who has joined us for our PropFundrs Community Webinar today, 14th of February, Valentine's Day. I've resisted the temptation of putting lots of roses and red hearts all over our landing page. So wasn't sure how Todd and James would take that if they tuned in and there was nothing but roses and hearts all over the place. But absolutely delighted for everyone who's joined. For those listening on the recording, I know you're going to have a real benefit and a really good listen to the webinar today. So first of all, before we get into it, let me welcome our two special guests today. I'll start with James because he may drop off for a while before his turn comes. So James, absolutely delighted you can join. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, David. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. What part of the world are you in today?
Nottingham. Yeah, Nottingham, East Midlands.
Around the homestead then?
Yeah, yeah.
Grand. No snow that part of the world at the minute, no? Just cold, wet
No,
and
no,
windy.
yeah, pretty much.
Excellent, excellent. So James is going to be doing our real lives section, which is really in some ways my favorite section. Sorry, Todd, I have to declare that. My favorite section is the real lives because they're the people who are actually out in the market doing it. It's one thing sitting behind webinars discussing theory. The people who are out there right now doing developments, facing the challenges, overcoming the problems, finding solutions, that's who we want to hear from. I think there's huge value in that. So James, really looking forward to digging into your property journey. Yeah, you're happy to stay on. I know you've got a lot of meetings at the minute, so you're more welcome to drop off and come back in 30 minutes time or so. If you're happy to sit in the
Yeah.
background, that's up to you. So thank you. And then our other special guest is Mr. Todd Walker from Villator Media. Hi Todd, how are you?
I'm very well today. Happy to be here, David.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And again, really looking forward to your session on brand building. Someone who's very passionate about that. We've had some great discussions in around that. So yeah, we're very looking forward to that. So let's get on into the webinar today. This has been recorded. So for people who do post into the Q&A, we'll not read out names where we can remember. So just in case you don't want your name on a recording, but we do encourage people to leave comments, ask questions, engage with us in the Q&A. Don't do the chat box, just do the Q&A. And then we'll be able to pick that up, put it to the speaker or answer the question at the right time. Even if we don't do it there and then, perhaps we're waiting for a break and then we'll circle back. But we'll endeavor to get all the questions answered. This is part of what we're trying to provide, an opportunity to interact with our guest speakers, to make points. Just looking at the list today of those who have tuned in live, a lot of you are professionals already in the world of property development, property investment. So we do want to hear from you and your take on some of the things that are happening in the market. So please engage. That's my appeal. So PropFundrs, for anyone who's tuned in for the first time, this is really only the second community webinar we've done under the brand PropFundrs. And our mission statement, what gets me out of bed in the morning, what drives me, is to empower SME property developers to build more homes by disrupting the alternative funding market. So that's really what we're about. That theme sort of through the webinars will be around the alternative funding market, helping SME developers be able to build more homes. And of course, there's a huge need throughout the United Kingdom for all different types of houses, apartments. More accommodation is needed, and we want to try and do our bit to facilitate and make that happen. Now, when we think of that, and before we go to Todd as our first guest today, what really struck me as I was, considering the whole concept of PropFundrs and this section of the market, what really struck me was there's a couple of really main pain points for SME developers. And what you have is, of course, developers tend to run out of funding before they run out of deals. That kind of goes without saying. But then you have the whole issue around regulation, and things are changing almost monthly on that, it seems, at the minute. And we do have a further update today in terms of another change in terms of FCA regulation that developers need to be aware of. And then you have the whole idea of lack of time, resources, to actually prepare DD packs, etc. Even just the whole concept of what funding is available, the real cost of finance. So they're all things that I think a lot of SME developers are struggling with. Not all of them, but some definitely are. And we believe we can provide a solution to those pain points, to those problems. And so really what we can do as prop funders is to help property developers save time and save money, which is hopefully a win-win for everybody. But absolutely delighted. First guest speaker today is Mr. Todd Walker. Known Todd a number of months now. We met at it was actually Brendan Quinn's event at a pre-meal. Shout out to Sam Loney from Merry Oaks who introduced me to Todd. And Todd works with a lot of property developers, a lot of people involved in the property space. And a conversation that I've had for many years, and it was really interesting to hear Todd's take on it, was around this whole concept of brand building for property developers. So for SME developers, maybe you're already well established in terms of what you've done, but how many people know about you? A lot of SME developers just starting out are wondering how do we build a brand? How do we access investors? How do we access social media and use all these things? It's a minefield. It's new to a lot of people. Some of it seems quite technical. That can be confusing. So to unravel the mystery, to make it simpler, we've brought Todd on. So Todd, absolutely delighted. I'm going to let you take screen and you can share your own slides. And we'll go through for the next 20 minutes, some of your points you want to make, and hopefully allow time for Q&A. So again, please, anybody, if you've got any questions, fire it into the Q&A and we'll be able to answer it as we go along. So I should be able to go to you, Todd, now in a second.
Brilliant. You'll just need to enable participant sharing screens in the settings.
Correct. That should be on to you now. That is you now.
Perfect. Let's bring this up. Awesome. So I'll try and run through this fairly quickly because I know presentations can be a little bit funky. But yeah, so brand building in the property industry. There we go. Are we back? Sorry.
Yeah, we lost you for a second. You're not on camera currently.
Yeah, give me a sec. It's just sharing screens. It's just nuked my PC because I've got too many things open.
The joys of technology. There is
that is the joys.
Good away.
Let me just stop sharing real quick and get this back. Video might not work at the same time if it's going to keep doing that, but let's try this one more time. If that is that working? Are we back?
You are currently.
We're live. Brilliant. Okay, cool. And if I big that big screen, we are here. All right, cool. Awesome. So brand building in the property industry in 2024, it's really important that you are doing, or at least thinking about growing your personal brand or your business brand, because it's the way people are going to get to know you. That it's the way people are going to be able to introduce each other, connect with you, and obviously provide investment opportunities, deal opportunities, and just sort of make your life easier. The more people that know about you, it just always helps. Good or bad press, it's always helps being known for what you do and hopefully being really good at it. So why do you build brands and market, especially in the property industry? With hiring new staff, obviously you can get good staff. You can hire the top quality trades guys that can come and work on your projects. Finding new sites, a lot of the sites that I'm talking to some people about, they're getting sent them just because of their social media. They are known for buying sites, and they're known for buying the land, and people that watch them and that know them and like them and trust them are sending them deals, are giving them these opportunities, all because of the reach that they have and the type of brand that they've built around these types of deals. So it's really important. And obviously you will start to get some less pushback when obviously building. So if people in the surrounding area obviously know, like, and trust you, and they recognize your brand as soon as your boards go up saying, hey, there's a new development here, and you're submitting planning applications and all that kind of stuff, you're gonna hopefully have less pushback from that. And if you're good and you're known for being a considerate builder and you're not going to mess around the local area, then that will help. And also investors. The main part of this is obviously finance. So, getting your finance for all your projects, whether it's your debt or equity, it's really important that you have trust with these individuals, because they are often giving you large sums of capital that you're going to then deploy, and with the expectation of returning something of their investment, obviously, if the project goes well. So if you want to find more deals easily, have less pushback on your developments, and have more investors know, like, and trust you, then you need to build a personal or a big brand for your business as a property developer. But how do we do that? Often people get a bit caught up. There's so many different ways of doing it. And the one way I'm going to focus on this is obviously helping you just sort of choose where you are. Obviously, I don't know the range of different developers that are here. There's going to be a bit, but the idea is you have your brand, you define your brand identity. So you design, you think and figure out where you want to sort of set yourself in the market. And then you go after that, which is understanding your target audience. So you go after the types of people that you're looking for, or looking to at least give a good impression on, and have at least know of your whereabouts. And that comes through consistent messaging, which can come in the form of case studies, testimonials, previous projects, that kind of stuff. And it's all about maintaining brand consistency. So doing all of these things that represent that sort of brand identity that you identified at the start. So how do you find that brand identity? There are obviously a fair few range of property, like, types of property developers, but these are sort of 9 that I thought might be quite sort of suitable, at least it might hit everyone's boxes. So from residential to hotel and hospitality, green and sustainable, people do different things, and it's obviously you will fit into one of these categories, and you'll then want to stay within that category for your brand, and then obviously promote that through your channels. And hence, going forward, if you're a residential developer, you're more likely to get sent residential development deals which suit those kind of projects. So it's really important that you understand your target audience. So for instance, for residential developers, you might want to show that you are family friendly. You might want to show that if you're doing these, single family units that are going to friends and family, it's really important to, obviously, that for your exit, if you're looking to sell, if you're, buying or flipping, or, doing new builds, that you can market these properties effectively, and that people that are buying it want to know that they're buying it from someone that understands what a family value is. Obviously, everyone here has family, and everyone here gets together and has that stuff, but getting personal with it will show that, you're that type of residential developer that cares and is building a really nice home for someone. Community focus. So obviously some planning stuff requires community projects. Really emphasize those, especially all that kind of stuff. It just get it out there, post it. Successful at delivering multiple projects on time and on budget. So if you have, this is more going towards now looking at, like, investors. What projects have you done? How can people know, like, and trust you, that, like I said, they can give you your fund, or they can give you funds, and they know that they're going to get their money back on time and on budget. And it's really, really important to shout about this. And obviously, yeah, paying back the investors. So with residential developments, you might be working with smaller ticket investors. So if you're, say, working from like the 10K all the way up to maybe, say, like $250,000, I don't know, in terms of like their ticket size, you want to promote that. You want to say, look, we're working with investors, we're paying them back their 10Ks, or we're paying them back their 100Ks, and they're getting that money back. And it just shows, like, as part of your brand, these are the types of people that you're working with. You're not working with super high net worths that are giving you the £1 million ticket sizes, or doing your £10 million developments. This is sort of how you structure the types of stuff you're doing. And I'm going to go into another example just after this, but another example might be working with landowners and JV opportunities and things like that. So just showing who you're working with and what you're doing for the different types. This will obviously vary for commercial developments. There's going to be a different type of sort of community incentive that you're going to be doing, or you're going to be obviously building all these retail units, or if it's storage. All depends on who your target market is, and it's really important to get that down, so you understand your target audience, so you can then effectively market to them and build that brand that you are recognized for. So if you're a custom build developer, some of your target audience might be working, they want to see that you're working with the best architects. They want to know what kind of designs you're doing. They want to see the unique material choices that are being made, because your customers for a custom build developer, or if you're a custom build developer, will be so much different to just a regular first time buyer that's just looking to get on the housing ladder. These guys are, they might be working with, they're happy to spend on the materials, and they want to know that if they're going to not overspend, but they're going to get this quality back, that you can deal with that. How close you work with them. So you might want to show, like, how you're achieving these dreams that these custom properties are being designed for. Like, people obviously have a idea or dream in their head that they want to build, so you're going to want to show that. Obviously, maybe with custom build developers, you're going to be working with higher capital stack, so a lot more equity and a lot more debt, and you want to show that you can handle that money. And that's where that brand sort of comes in. It's like you are known for working with the best architects. You are shaping that, you are building with super high quality materials. You're providing lots of, you know, in terms of return on investments, you're able to deal with that money and hand it back and deliver these projects. And obviously your attention to detail, you're working with high quality tradesmen, whereas you might be working with average Joe brickers, you know, on your new build sites. On this one, you're going to want, you know, top of the range, you know, kitchen fitteds that are, you know, can deal with these super complex designs and fittings and drawings and that kind of stuff. But obviously the important message is, how do you get that out? So you've sort of defined the type of developer that you are, and, you know, the brand that you want to set. You need to craft that image of yourself before you then go and start shouting about it. Because if you know, it's really important that you tell people about what you do, but if you're telling them about the wrong thing that you do, then obviously the message gets mixed, and then you're not getting the right thing. So you know, you don't want to be shouting about, oh, you know, we've built this project and it's, you know, we've got these types of people on it, but that's not going to attract, especially if you're for the luxury home builds or something like that, and you're just saying, oh, well, we're working with general people, you know, the average Joe Schmo. Your high net worth individuals that are looking to get a really bespoke, custom, beautiful home built are not gonna, you know, be looking at coming towards you, because they're gonna see, well, they don't work with the best, they don't work with the right type of people, that, you know, and they start associating your brand with a different thing, whereas you're trying to portray this image. So it's really important that you tell people about what you do, and there are obviously some social different marketing channels you can do that by. I want to give some examples of face-to-face networking, how that's worked for me personally. But for me personally, I was able to raise about 20 grand for my first project, which was great, and that is in the house that I'm currently in at the moment. But also it has now opened a door up to me to over £500,000 in capital, just by talking about what I do, not trying to sell people, but talk, like, and be like, oh yeah, so I want to do these developments, I want to, you know, look at these different types of projects, and I want to, you know, buy this type of building and I want to build it. And then eventually, like, over enough period of time, you'll sort of manifest that. And face-to-face networking is super underrated for that, because a lot of people try and go there and try and like be like, oh, I need him and I'm going to try and sell him and get him. No, it's not about that. It's about building community, or at least a relationship with these people, and actually, you know, having that consistent bond from face-to-face interactions. Social media is a big part of this, and this is what we're going to go into next. Social media is a really big way of getting that out there to the masses, because obviously when you're networking, you're limited to the amount of people that you can reach, but you can have a more personal effect. So when you're working with, you know, lesser people, then it's easier to do that. But if you want to start growing big pipelines for your development projects, you want to start, you know, raising much more capital, you know, you, rather than raising your, you know, a few hundred grand, you're only raising a few million quid. You need to start then using social media to start reaching the audiences for that. Because if you can pull together 100 people with, you know, say 50 grand each, then it's great, because then you can start doing these big projects. And obviously website and portfolio is really important, just to direct people to something that is professional about your brand, and you basically plop everything on there and do it. But the most important thing with branding is being consistent in the messaging. So right as before, if you have identified your target audience, your target market, so you know what kind of developer you are, you know the types of people you want to attract, you know, you've got to craft that image from that, and then start utilizing social media consistently with that message in mind. So you go back to the beginning, and, you know, if you are the luxury home developer, you show every time. You don't show that you work with, if you are working with lesser architects, you don't show that you are, but you show the award-winning architects that you're working with, and you really shout about it, and you make sure that they, you know, even though if you might be working with other people that aren't quite there, your brand message is about being the best and being, you know, these amazing luxury stuff. That's what we do. We do bespoke, we do the best. You don't show, like, you know, that's how you craft your image and you create this thing. So short content is really good for that. So it's a really good top of funnel marketing, and this is what I specialize in, which is, you know, making short form videos which sort of tell your customers, or tell people that are watching, that you're working with the best types of people, if that's what you want to do, and obviously the types of developments that you are, and that gets you really good brand awareness, and it goes out to everyone. Obviously the people that are interested in it will see you, and that's why it's top of funnel, because it just gives a really broad range, and it starts bringing in the right people, and it's free, which is great. These come in the form of Instagram, Facebook, TikToks, YouTube Shorts, and obviously then direct into a funnel, which then links to all the stuff that you want them to see. So if they're an investor, you'll send them to, like, you know, your investor links, or if you've got like a specific number that they want to call, or you want to talk to, or you want to book a meeting with them, then they can do that. If they're a deal sourcer looking to send you some deals, then they can obviously, you know, be sent to the right place, and this, that, the other. And well, that's too far. How did I go to the end? Right. So the marketing mix. So obviously with short form content, there's a few different channels, but I'd say by far TikTok is probably the best one to use, just because it immediately sends your video out to like 200 people. So you've crafted your image. You would basically just film something about showing that you are who you say you are in your image. So back to the luxury home builder, you know, you're showing the types of, say, you know, this specific bespoke property is working with a really, you know, really lovely, I don't know, oak oak material. You show, you know, that oak being fitted. You show that it's being fitted by professional people that are really high quality tradesmen, and you know, it was designed by an amazing architect, and you put that into a video, and you can do a few different videos, one of the oak, one of the tradesmen, one of the architect, and you've got 3 videos there. I would recommend posting once a day at least on one of these platforms, but if you can do all of these platforms, you can make one video every single day and then post it, you know, on 5 different places, which is going to get you out. Okay, you might get 200 people on TikTok, 200 people on Instagram, 200 people on Facebook, 200 people on YouTube, 200 people on LinkedIn, and then before you know it, you're reaching 1,000 different people across 5 different platforms, which are then seeing that brand, that identity, which is, you know, we are this bespoke builder, we are this, that, the other. And it's great. And it takes about 5 minutes or say, once you've made the video, to then do all the different bits of posting. And, you know, if you've got 25 minutes every day and you've got a video made, then you can post on all 5 of those platforms to get 1,000 people every single day. And that adds up, you know, that adds up to what, 30,000 people a month that you've reached because of it. So it starts stacking up very quickly, and it's just a big numbers and momentum game. But what the content might look like. So we're going back to I should have done it for the luxury home builder, but for the residential property developer, it will look like, if you want to show that you are a family-friendly developer and you're trying to sell your homes on to a client that is a family, and they are, you know, they just want to live in it and they want to buy it and they want to live happily ever after, and all that kind of stuff, you might be able to tell stories about how your site is impacting you and your family. So what it means to you to give people a warm home and to live. You know, it's really important that people, you know, we're all people at the end of the day. And if that's your type of target market that you want to sell to, then that's how you've got to sort of craft your brand to show that you are this type of person that cares about the home that you're building and that you're selling. Even though it might not be the best, it's still a really good home, and it will impact people's lives. If your scheme requires building like parks and developments, some infrastructure, film it, talk about it, say, hey, we're helping this, you know, the local area. We do care. We are considerate constructors, and we are looking to look after the local area that we, you know, we're not just here to build a house and sell it and make profit. We are here to take care of everyone around as well. If you're looking to obviously help investors out and you want to give them a good idea, show the numbers, timescale. They're more interested in the detail and the fact that you can analyze a project from start to finish and actively pick out good projects to give them a return on investment and actually help them, you know, trust you and give them, well, obviously be able to take their money and provide them that return at the end. So talk to them, get testimonials of people that you've worked with, how they've, you know, worked with you, and get them to talk about you, because the better that they can talk about you, the more that's gonna speak 1,000 times more than you talking about yourself. So stand with the investors and talk about how good of a service you've done for them, and then obviously case studies with previous landowners you might have worked with or approached, or the different projects that you've done. Just show that, you know, you can build projects and it works, and people will know you for the guy that builds these cool homes, or or whichever type of thing there is. So that was a really quick run through of everything. I've tried to like get through it fairly quickly, so I'm not taking up too much time. But if you've got any questions about obviously creating content, getting that brand sort of identity out there, and then obviously creating content around that and distributing it, please give me some questions at the Q&A.
Absolutely fantastic, Todd. I think you've covered so much there, which is exactly the key sort of high level detail that the people needed to see. So again, if you have any questions for Todd right now, I want a couple of things to tease out of what he's commented on, but by all means, put a comment or a question into the Q&A, and we'll be able to deal with that in the next few minutes. Working backwards, you listed up there 5 channels. I think one of the big questions that I'm often asked, and a question that I've had myself in this space, is which is the best social media channel? And I guess it's different if you're maybe already established and looking to expand the new channels. So you can answer it for that person, but also for, let's call them the newbie, a developer who's just really kicking off, that don't really have any channels yet. What advice would you give them of which channels to focus on initially?
Yeah, good question. I recommend TikTok just because of the sheer reach you can get with it. It doesn't quite build that personal connection with the followers that you need, but it's a really good way of getting brand awareness and brand sort of presence out there, because you can do these developments, you can show what's going on. And like I said, it will get you in front of at least 200 people regardless, and then it becomes a numbers game. So if you're posting 5 videos a day on TikTok, you can do 1,000 views, no problem, and have 1,000 people have seen your brand and your thing and at least be aware of you. Now, if you're looking to build a personal connection with these types of people, Facebook is probably the best one for that. It will help, everyone on Facebook, I feel like, is, they get involved in stuff. They like to comment, they like to, react, and they sort of engage a bit more, which is a lot better feel for it. And if you're looking to sort of create a closer relationship with people, then definitely Facebook, but TikTok is a really good one to literally just get sort of numbers and, people aware if that's what your goal is. It depends on your goal. Like Instagram's just about pretty stuff. If you've got a really beautiful development, or you've got really beautiful stuff and you're doing interesting things, then you make a short reel of that and that would do better. But it's more just for people to look at and watch, whereas Facebook will create a more personal relationship.
Okay. Really good question here regarding cost. So if I'm just starting out and building a brand, what budget should I allocate? I don't know, I'm guessing that might be hiring external resource to help me build on that, and it might be to do with paid reach and paid marketing. So maybe deal with both of those. How a developer starting off wanting to build a brand, what sort of money should they put into their resources, internal or external, and then paid reach, paid advertising.
Yeah, well, marketing is like with any skill. And we were on a podcast with a very, very, very well-known developer, Tyler Newman, and he was basically saying how property developers need to see media like a tradesman. You need your carpenter to come on and hang the doors, put the door frames in and do it properly. And then you need your decorator to come in and make it all smooth and nice. And then you need your marketing person to picture it and get it out there. So as far as that allocation goes, you should see them as a part of your team and as a person that should always be on site, at least at the end of the projects, to show what's there. At the very least, if you can get them going through and during, then that's obviously even better. And a lot of people can do it themselves. Like I do the majority of my filming on my iPhone 15, and it is unbelievable. It's great, and you can get the right content, and obviously you can build up a little bit of the extra stuff that I have a gimbal, which is like £100. I have a microphone, which is £200. So for about, everyone's got a phone. So, but for an extra £300, then I've got a semi-professional setup, which I can then sort of be filming myself and get things out. And then where the budget comes into it, most people are usually putting about, most big companies are doing like, say, 10, 15, 20% of their profit or revenue on marketing. So it's it's about a fifth of what your resources. So if you're spending your time, say, and you want to spend at least a fifth of your time thinking about marketing and branding, because it's not about what it's going to do today, it's what it's going to do for you in 6 months' time and how it's going to make your life easier. Because you can really work your butt off to build the best projects and do these big things, but if you can only do one project at a time, or you can only raise the capital for like 1 or 2 projects, then you're not going to be able to scale and grow a business. And it's in 6 months' time you're going to be able to reach 2,000 people, and you might find 1 or 2 people in there that have an extra 300k, which allows you to buy the next site while you're doing your next thing or something like that. So Yeah, I definitely recommend if you can't allocate the budget, because I know margins are tight in property and I know how difficult it is. I'd at least spend 20% of your time if you can doing
Mhm.
it, or at least making it so it's easy for you to. Like, I literally just pick my phone up, press record, and sometimes it's as simple as just clicking that and then uploading it straight away. Make an Instagram story, do something like that. But if you can then start affording to pay it, then look at, you know, okay, 20% budget on say a property development is quite expensive. You know, you'd be looking at that just in, that's like 20 grand. You don't be spending that much, but you could still get away with, say, paying a videographer, you know, what, £300 a day, £900 to come and film like at 3 different stages across that site. So the beginning, the middle, and the end, to then
Mhm.
edit some content up together and then distribute it yourself. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
that's,
okay.
yeah.
No, that's very interesting. I have to take slight exception with you though when you said earlier that you can take 5 minutes for each of the different channels to upload. I think when I go to try and
That's when you've
upload,
got the content.
yeah, I think when
Yeah.
I try and go and do that, Todd, it takes me 5 minutes to find my password and log in.
Yeah.
Never mind actually write the content and upload. But I'm definitely not the most techy. But again, I think the challenge is for people like me. You know, I'm 53 now. I did not grow up in this sort of social media era. You know, the challenge for me and many developers is we have to learn the skills. You know, when
Yeah.
mobile phones first came out, there was a generation that just stayed away from them because it looked complicated. And now there's very few people, no matter what age they are, um, you know, don't have a mobile phone. So it's something that people can't be afraid of. They're going to have to learn, you know, how to navigate their way around these different channels. You know, work out. You know, every channel's got its own way of doing things. Maybe a limitation on
Yeah.
length of video, size of image. So it's something that people have to learn, and that's obviously what I know you're very passionate about.
Yeah, 100%. And if you can take anything from this, making at least anything below a 60-second video once a day on your site or about what you're doing, and then just posting it on, you know, wherever it is, wherever you can that day. Because I'm even not great at, you know, posting on my own stuff. I'm great at posting on everyone else's stuff, but even doing your own stuff, you still got to sit there and you've got to film it. And you just, if you can just post it, and it's all about making your life easier. The thing is about each of these things, it's not about like, okay, I have to set a time to do it. If you can figure out a way to just add this into your schedule or your time where you know that, you know, within the first 5 minutes of getting on site, I'm going to put the camera up and I'm going to talk, then you've added that to your habit of, you know, putting your tools in the van or get it sitting down at your desk or your office to analyze deals or run through that kind of stuff. You've got those, you know, you've set something up. It's about I like habit stacking and stuff like that. Is passionate about that because that's like James Clear's Atomic Habits. If you haven't read it, read it, and it will just help you make things easier to get into at least building more habits. Because if you can make it super easy, then it doesn't become a chore and it doesn't become like something difficult that you have to do. Like if David's forgot his password, it might be as simple as writing your account name and password down in your notes that says social media. So, you know, if you do have that problem, you can just copy and paste it, put it in, log in, you film the video in 2 seconds, you've clicked post and you've forgotten about it till tomorrow. So,
Do, do me a
yeah.
favor and send that to Brenda for me. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think she's fed up me asking her about passwords.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
listen, Todd, that's absolutely fantastic. The one thing that we haven't talked about today, which, well, we'll be mentioning it later on, but it is relevant to social media, which will maybe bring you back on a few weeks, the next webinar or webinar going forward, and that is compliance around social media, because there has been some changes in that. And of course, where it does come to try and engage with investors on social media, there are obviously compliance constraints that you need to be aware of in terms of financial promotions, financial advice, collective investment schemes. So yeah, it's not just a complete free hand on social media. You got to be aware of that. So
There
grand,
you go.
okay. If I take back over controls, excellent. So I found that really useful. That was, I think, very helpful, and it really shows you all the different things that uh, are factors that need to be thought of as people are trying to build their brands. So Todd, I really appreciate that, and I look forward to catching up with you again. For those that maybe aren't aware, Todd has actually agreed to be a consultant to PropFundrs, so I'm able to leverage the knowledge that you've just heard crammed into sort of 15-20 minutes there. That's been brought to bear, as well as many other clients that he deals with. PropFundrs is now one of Todd's clients, so looking forward to working with you, Todd, more going forward. Okay, so before I introduce then our next sort of special guest, our real lives, let me just cover, and in fact, both Todd and James, you're happy to contribute to this section if you can. I think it'll be very useful. Just some property market updates. So there's been a bit of a discussion happening at the minute. 99% mortgages may be back on the table again. I'm old enough to remember the good old days where banks were actually giving about 110% mortgages, which if you say that to some of the younger generation, they think you got horns in your head, but it did happen. 2006, 2007, banks would give you about 110% of the value of the property. But yeah, 99% mortgages back on. This would be a bit of a game changer, guys, would it?
I don't know. I think I see it as a bit of a marketing headline, to be honest. And there'll be a lot of catches and a lot of caveats and bits behind the scene of it. And yeah, I'm a little bit dubious, to be honest.
Probably wisely so, from that sense. And you know, there's probably elections coming up soon whenever the government start throwing out these sort of headlines. But at the same time, there is a genuine need to try and get the housing market going. There's this massive need for obviously new property. They need to make sales. It could be even a short-term fix to try and get more first-time buyers into the market. But certainly if it did happen, I think it definitely would open up the market to first-time buyers in a way we haven't seen, I think, in quite a while.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, obviously they got rid of the Help to Buy scheme, and I think that needs to be replaced some way, shape, or form to help stimulate the market and bring first-time buyers back to the market, and give them a stepping stone. So yeah, if it's not that, it'll be something else. But yeah, the government definitely needs to bring something in.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Todd? Any of your sort of peer group, sort of generation renters? Is this something that would maybe encourage friends of yours to dip in and buy property?
I'd hope so, but because I'd come from it from the point of view is buy it, and I presume these are residential mortgages, so you buy it and put some lodgers in the house and help you pay off the pay off the loans if that's doable.
Yeah,
that's what I'd suggest.
There may be some stipulations around that.
Yeah.
I imagine it'll be pretty tight around living it yourself.
No, exactly.
But yeah, I think there's I think it's going to be interesting to see how that goes anyway.
But you still have to meet the affordability though.
So there's going to have to be some money put in.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to still be qualified for the loans as a regular mortgage. So even if you're putting 1K down, you still have to qualify for say 99K mortgage if you're buying £100,000 flat.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
which
I would say the income, proof of income, etc., would obviously play a big part in that in terms of salary and all the rest of it, But that's okay. And inflation rose just slightly. I think just up 0.1%, up to 4% now. But again, it is interesting from where it was it peaked just about 11%, didn't it? Just over 11% it peaked. So it's at 4% currently. So hopefully under control, and we hope to start to see interest rates falling a little bit going forward. Fingers crossed. But that's the next sort of thing that's on the offer. Be great to have a crystal ball, but that unfortunately doesn't happen. Again, for those that aren't aware, again, a very important publication or policy statement from the FCA 2313. It's the 13 statement they've made in 2023, which is shows you sort of how active the FCA are currently in all of this. Yeah, the latest statement is very much around any firm that's actually involved in the financial promotions, then they have to be registered, or basically called a gateway. So any firm that wanted to be involved in financial promotions had to register with the FCA. And really what this is focusing is trying to prevent, inhibit, stop the unregulated market. So basically, if someone doesn't have this gateway, if someone hasn't registered to be involved in financial promotions, then it's really clear that they're not acting in a regulated way. And therefore, if they're posting on social media, whatever else they're doing, then that's not going to it's going to be obvious that they're not part of the list. So that's just some of the things regarding a property market update. Were either of you aware of that? Had you heard about this PS 2313?
I knew there was a change in the FCA regs, and something in the news recently come out, but I wasn't aware specifically about that.
Todd?
No, wasn't aware, so that's good to know now.
Yeah. I just find it interesting that obviously both of you are obviously professional people in the property space, very active networking events, and yet neither of you are aware of what I think is a pretty seismic change in property developers reaching out or being involved in financial promotions. So it just shows you the need to educate developers as to what's actually happening in regulation and stuff. So that's on that. Okay, Todd, you're happy to either drop off or go on mute. We're going to just move on now to, I think we'll just go straight on to James actually now. In fact, I'll go here actually. So the market that PropFundrs is very much interested in is this SME property developer market, and I found an amazing stat. Is back in 1988, SME developers were responsible for 39% of new homes in England and Wales. That's now around about 10%, and that's really where this big gap is in terms of trying to build enough houses to meet demand. And that's why I think the focus of the market, the government, those involved in the industry, should be in supporting and helping the SME developers. I mean, they represent 55% of all the developers. There's about 4,500 developers in the UK. 2,500 of those, just over, are SME developers, and that's very much who we're targeted to in terms of PropFundrs. I think within that there are different types of developers. We have what I call the more experienced developers. People are probably heading towards the end of their journey, if I can be kind, and they're really, looking to sort of finish off their last 2 or 3 big projects maybe before retiring, or looking at how they pass their business on. You then have the younger developers, and Todd mentioned Tyler Newman of Newman Rose. Really great example of sort of 2 young property professionals, formed a development company, very high profile social media, got their own podcast, they've got their own education company, and have really built their development business on the back of a large social media presence. And I think more and more we're going to see developers enter the market through that route. We had Phoebe Isabella Porter on as a real lives guest last episode. Young female property developer, 21 years old, already 5 or 6 years experience in the industry, high profile social media, and that's going to be a route that many people go into. Now, another route is actually the route that James came in from. So a professional in the world of property initially, and then moving into development from that. And I think more and more people who are providing professional services to the property industry are now beginning to get involved in property development themselves. So I'll come back to that slide. Let's just go straight to James now. So James, absolutely delighted to have you here today. Know each other, guessing, is it approaching 2 years now?
Yeah, about to say a couple of years.
Definitely. Yeah, and we obviously, I presented at the Developer Club. I think the same day you were actually presenting that day. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you presented and I presented the same day at the Developer Club, run by Tex and Shiro, and then obviously with various contacts since then. So what we've done is obviously put together just a sort of a few slides to give James a chance sort of to tell a story, focus on some of the challenges he's had, and then as this is real lives, want to see what he's up to right now, look at one of the projects he's involved in. So you can just kind of nod or give me a shout. I mean, do you want? I can sort of give you a quick run through the next couple if you want to. They're obviously from your deck, meeting the team and the rest. So yeah, about us then. So yeah, what's your background? How do you end up in property as a developer?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background was actually in mechanical engineering. So I left school at 16. Then was quite heavily in the engineering industry. Got into application sales. And then I decided to have a pivot and sort of change into property. It's always been an interest and a bit of a passion of mine. So I, literally decided to start a property business from day one. That was back in 2018. So this is our, what was it, sixth, seventh year now. In property, I've actually lost count, but something like that. And we basically started off from doing buy-to-lets, flips, HMOs, then building into commercial conversions and new build projects. So far we've done well over 50 projects since we started, 15 million pounds GDV completed, and we sort of built up to, now we've got 10 million GDV just in the pipeline for this year. So we've grown quite dramatically, but I like to think quite slowly and cautiously at the same time. I've always kept quite a small team. We're only a team of 3, which I'll come on to shortly. So I think we're quite dynamic and can move quite quickly on a lot of things. So yeah, and well, it mentions a little bit at the bottom. So we're always kind of striving to be, do more and be better. So I got my RICS accreditation last year, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. Justin, who works for us, is just about to, well, he's submitted and hopefully going to get approval for his chartership in project management. And then we've got a consulting side of the business, so we're hoping to go for RICS accreditation for the business as well. Because I've not come from a I've come from an engineering side, not necessarily property, but yeah. So if you want to flip on to the next slide. Real. So it's a little bit of an ethos really we put in our sort of slide deck. So for us, our kind of strapline is professionalism, integrity, and collaboration. So I felt when starting the business, it was good to have a bit of a few key metrics that kind of ground us as a company. I think I like to pride ourselves on being professional. I like to think we've got strong integrity in the industry as well. So we did try and do what we say we're going to do, and try and be quite transparent and hold our certain level of ethics. And then collaboration is a massive thing as well. So I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without having a lot of good contacts, network, and basically working with people rather than trying to work against people. So for us, they're quite a key few parts of our business. So
I'm curious, James, regarding your logo. I'm always fascinated by people's logos. So, well, the name was rather easy, given your second name. Did you follow on that quite quickly, or what was the process to come up with Crossover Property and then the logo?
So yeah, it's an interesting one. So when I first started, I actually essentially started as a property sourcer. And in my simple mind, I was thinking, well, I'm sourcing properties, and essentially I'm crossing over ownership between new people and old people. So that's where the name Crossover came from, because there's a lot of changes, and I'm kind of almost like a bridging the gap between a vendor and a buyer, and that's kind of stuck. So yeah, I've always been one of these, nothing's ever gonna be perfect. I'm more of just taking action and trying to move forward. So I didn't spend months and months trying to perfect the perfect logo, because nothing's going to be perfect. And I've got a couple of designs done, and then we cracked on and built a sort of brand and a business around it.
Excellent. Okay. So your team then, because obviously any good successful business person is probably only as good as their team around them.
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously myself, been since it started. Justin's been with us now 4 years. So he just had his 4-year anniversary last week. So he's a full-time project manager for us. Stephanie joined us last year as a project administrator. We're actually hiring at the minute for a quantity surveyor. I've had a very, very good interview today actually. And yeah, don't want to let any cats out of the bag, but we probably will be hiring them.
That's why he's not watching this broadcast, or you're in trouble.
Yeah, hopefully.
Or not in trouble, but he might ask more money.
Yeah, true. So yeah, we're quite a small team, but I like to because you can use a lot of these consultants, and we do have a lot of external consultants, architects, planning consultants, builders, even just people on the ground who can help us go and do viewings and things. But for project related things, I like to have people in house just to kind of jump on things quickly when issues do arise. So that's why we've got a bit of a project team, and allow us to do a few projects at a time then as well. So yeah.
So let me dive into that a little bit. Again, thinking of SME developers, maybe people starting off, perhaps they're one-man bands or one-woman bands currently, but they're they're at this threshold, this glass ceiling, do I start employing staff and all goes with that? So just maybe give an example. You've obviously done numerous projects. So the project manager and a project administrator, just go down a layer as to what each of what were they responsible for in terms of like their day to day, and then of course what they have to do for you and deliver for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my project manager is responsible essentially for the delivery of that project and dealing with problems as they arise. So we, get quite heavily involved with contract administration, so it deals with the contractual side, dealing with pricing structures, health and safety side of things, technical aspects and drawings and specifications. And then sort of Steph is sort of the level below. She essentially keeps him in check to make sure all documentation is in the right place where it should be and nothing's actually being missed. Because when you're running projects, there's always a lot going on, and before you know it, you can miss something quite easily. So she ensures that everything's following the process and everything is kind of kept on top of. So every week we're sending out the right invoice. So every week we're doing a project report or whatever it might be, that it's she basically just makes sure we're doing what we should be doing each week. I'm not getting sidetracked.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of what I'm talking to Todd earlier, I mean, I know you obviously have some social media presence. Is that an external resource, or do you just do some stuff yourself, or how do you allocate that from the team?
Yeah, so I've done a bit myself. I'll be honest, I've been a bit on and off with it. It is one of my things I want to focus on this year. And actually, Steph, who works for us, as much as she is a project admin, she does help with a few other little things as well around the office, and she is helping with our marketing. So yeah, I think I'm getting a little bit more support on that now to really try and ramp it up a bit this year.
Okay, and in terms then of growth, with this team that you have now, with your additional consultants coming in, would that let you scale quite substantially, or at what point do you have to think about getting 3, 4, 5, 6 staff and becoming a much bigger organization?
Yeah, so I think I've never wanted to go, crazy big. I don't want to have 100 staff under one roof. It's just not me. I like to, keep it fairly nimble. So with the new QS coming on board, we basically can deliver quite easily everything we've got on board and maybe take 1 or 2 more sites on. We'd probably look to be hiring like an office manager or something as well this year. Just to get us that sort of next level of growth. Like I say, I'm cautious. I don't want to grow too quickly. I don't want to take loads of stuff on. But as with developments, there can be a process of, sometimes you're really busy, you've got stuff on site, and now I'm thinking I'm building out everything this year, but what am I going to be doing next year and the year after? So you still need to be out there and actually, finding new projects, finding new deals, and taking stuff through planning as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if we go on then to project risk, one of the big favorite topics to analyze when it comes to development projects, and depending on what's going on in the economy, the sort of economic situation, political situation, all that feeds into different risks that appear from time to time. This is how you. Well, here's sort of 6, probably not an exhaustive list, but maybe just talk us through these as you're looking at a project or doing a project. You're obviously mindful of risk. So maybe just speak to that initially. How important is it to be on top of that? And then maybe just speak to a couple of these, whatever ones you want to pick out or run down them, and just explain what you're looking for and what you're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this kind of comes from creating risk registers and in the health and safety side of actually running a construction project. But it's interesting kind of taking an overview of the project itself and understanding what the risks are and what could go wrong, because if anyone tells you a project's going to go as it was planned to go, it isn't. It's always going to have something go wrong somewhere along the line. And it's kind of, what is that impact it's going to have on the project, both time and cost. So for example, the sales period overrun, risk 2. So this is looking at, if the project overruns, we don't sell as quickly as anticipated, what is that risk? It's going to be lack of cash flow, lack of getting the money back in the bank. You still be paying interest. Can you pay interest investors back? Do you need to drop the prices, which means you're going to drop your profit down? And this is done on a kind of project by project basis. So on this particular one, we've got a really strong demand in the area for the sites. This is our bungalow scheme. Funnily enough, we've actually had an open day last week, and we've not even put the foundations in yet, and we've got 8 registered people who came on site and who are extremely keen. And I think we're going to a bidding war on one of the particular plots. So I my gut feeling that's quite low. But if I was selling, £5 million luxury homes, I'd be a bit more concerned, because, not every, it's one of those that could really swing on the sales value, and you just need one buyer, but you could be waiting a year for it. So yeah, that's my kind of thinking. You've got the usual suspects like build costs going up. If you've got planning, planning could be a 6-month process, could be a 12-month process, could be a 2-year process. At the minute, it's so.
Yeah, we're actually going to focus on planning on our next webinar in March. We're going to run like a panel, and hopefully get some good arguments going between developers who are struggling with getting planning through, but maybe have some people, either ex-council, well, if we're going to anyone right now in planning, it'd be brilliant, but I doubt they'll leave themselves open to coming on a webinar like this. But it'd be good to have some people on both sides of the equation there, and just try and get to the bottom of what is going on with the planning situation in England particularly. But yeah, so these are all things that you would look down. The build cost rising, has that impacted you in any of the schemes you've had in the last sort of 18 months? I'm sure it has. Or how did you deal with that in terms of the unknown?
Yeah, so it definitely did with us, 12 months ago, 24 months ago. I remember 2021 or 2022 was probably the worst year for it. So we were building 2 projects out, and we were actually sort of site managing them ourselves. We were having to buy the materials every month. And so we were in no fixed price contract, and every month we're going to the suppliers, and every month the price was going up and going up and going up. And I think in less than 12 months, we'd had, at least 30-40% increase on majority of everything. I mean, some things like timber was just ridiculous. It was doubling. And you can't, how do you manage that? You've got to carry on building, you've got to carry on buying the materials, and it's just trying to be a bit savvy what you're buying, and just trying to work through it. I think that craziness has settled down definitely last year and coming into this year. As I put it there, we're actually using a main builder on this particular project, so they've got no fluctuation provisions in their contract. So for me, as the developer, I'm pretty safe on our fixed costs, and then we've got contingency in there as well for if anything else crops up, or there is any major changes, we're kind of covered as much as possible.
So if you take that situation with the build costs and materials doubling, and that's obviously going to have a huge impact on the profitability of the project. How, again, this is sort of a real live section, so it's a degree of a personal question, but how do you deal with that in terms of the pressure? You've obviously got staff, you're watching, the market go to a point that, hang on, we could be building this for a loss potentially. The stress that goes with that, how do you deal with that, A, within the team, and then B, in your family life? How do you sort of differentiate work to family?
Yeah, well, I think the work to family one's quite easy, because I'm single and I've got no kids or anything like that, and
that is easy then.
so I don't have a huge amount to worry about, to be honest. I obviously have a family, but we're not hugely close anyway. But I think in regards to kind of staff and dealing with the team and dealing with these challenges, I've always had a motto of only really worry about stuff that is in my control. I can't do anything with materials going up. That is just the market. Every other developer has the same issue. But what can I do? It's right. Well, can I buy even silly things like we brought a load of block pavers off Facebook Marketplace, because someone had a load spare, rather than paying double in a builder's merchant brand new. They're still perfectly good for the project, and they work, but it's just what can we be a bit more savvy about buying things, and ultimately on one of those particular projects that probably got affected the most, it was a big new build 5-bed, and we luckily pre-sold it, so we knew our exit already, and it was just a case of, right, we've just got to get it built. So we can't stall and wait for materials to come down. We just got to get on with it and get it built.
Yeah, I like that. There, only worry about what you can control. I can see Todd's eyes lighting up. You can see a wee short coming on there for social media. Am I right, Todd? So that's a really good bit of, yeah.
5 ways to save money on your property development.
Exactly. That's sounding good.
Facebook Marketplace.
Exactly.
Do you know the funny thing is we brought them all off Facebook Marketplace. We ended up having spare ones, and then we resold the spare ones on Facebook Marketplace.
That's class. That's brilliant, honestly.
So there's the makings of a business there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so
I bought a kitchen on Facebook Marketplace for my house, and I fitted that in 2 days. Guy came and delivered it. It was great. Solid wood worktops. I got all the oven, all the appliances. It was great. You can get some really good stuff on there. So don't knock it.
There we are. You heard it here, only on the PropFundrs webinar. You heard it here. Okay, so that's really good. Just the idea of your risk. So yeah, a couple of projects here. There's the Douglas Road project. So you want to just give a quick sort of run over of what this project was and how it went, and profitability, was it what you expected, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, this is one of the projects we had where build costs were going crazy. So I think we originally had, I think we had it around 250 to build it. We had a estimator done an estimation. We did our own estimation, and they were both originally, it was like the estimator we paid came out at 200K, and I said, well, it's a bit cheap anyway. So we went at 250, and we did overspend, definitely. We were quite lucky that we sold it at 600K, literally when we had the foundations dug. So we already had a reservation in place and a buyer at the end. So it didn't really affect us a huge amount, but yeah, really good project. Nice big 5-bed house in an infill plot. So we took this through planning, then built it out and got it sold. So yeah, really pleased with how that one went. Aside from the build cost going up, but again, you know, it's no fault of our own. It's just the way the market was.
Okay, and then that's another one on Douglas Street. So you've
So those are the renders, and then that's the actual
okay,
finished project.
Excellent.
Yeah, the buyer didn't actually, they spec'd it out a little bit, but it wasn't too crazy. They literally chose the kitchen colours, flooring colours, and they agreed with us on the bathroom stuff. So it was very straightforward, to be honest with you.
Brilliant. Okay. So in terms then of again, real lives, what's actually happening now out in the marketplace, the coal face. So you do have a project currently up in the village of Lambley, Spring Lane project. So do you want us to explain what this project is? And then we're going to get into the sort of the capital stack in a few minutes on this one. But if just explain what this project is, maybe how you found it, how you sourced it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually an old kennels and a cattery business. It's got an existing house on it where the owners were living, and then they had a kennels and cattery business with various different outbuildings. This is probably the quickest one I've had to negotiate and get into legals. I was on Facebook one day in one of the property groups or something, or just flicking through, and I saw someone say I was selling this development site in Nottingham. And my ears pricked up. I thought, oh, okay, let's give him a message. And I thought it would be some sort of sourcer or an agent, and I thought, okay, we'll just get in contact with them. The lady messaged me back, and I got a few messages back and forwards. And she said, oh, why don't you come over on Saturday? And it just sort of clicked to my mind. Thinking, hang on a minute, she's actually the owner of the site. So I literally went around her house on the Saturday, met for a coffee. We pretty much agreed heads of terms there and then. I kind of gave them 2 different options, and they agreed with one of the options. Kind of got heads of terms agreed, and by Monday, I think we were pretty much agreed to go into solicitors. So it's the thing is, you never know what you're going to find. It was always worth a message, but that message then led on to a meeting, and once you're face to face with a vendor, it's a lot easier to negotiate, especially if you understand what their problems were. And in this case, they had 2 sales fall through. No one actually committed to buying it. They had a sale fall at 1.5 million, then it was 1.3, and we agreed a straightforward price of $1 million. But we did a delayed completion for 6 months, which actually helped me out in terms of getting my finance together and everything else ready to complete, and helped them out because they wanted time to wind the business down as well. So it was actually understanding what they wanted, because they didn't want a quick sale, they just wanted commitment. So I exchanged, with a nominal fee and gave them that commitment that I wasn't going to pull out. So understand someone's needs, basically, I'd say is quite important.
Yeah. Okay. So you're putting 5 bungalows, I think all really the same, basically cookie cutter, same one 5 times.
Exactly, yeah. Five new build bungalows. The site had planning on it originally, so she got planning to sell it. This is actually the first site I've ever brought with planning. Everything else we've taken it through planning, so it was unusual for me because usually they're overpriced, but on this particular one, it worked. So we did do a variation of planning just to improve the internal layout slightly. Add a couple of Uluxes in, vault the ceilings in an open plan space, create a separate study room. So we just did some minor tweaks just to improve it. But yes, it's five 3-bed bungalows. We're doing them fairly sort of high end, putting solar panels in them as well, so we can make quite eco efficient. And yeah, fairly simple build, to be honest.
Good. Okay, then in terms then, obviously on the funding side, and I'm sort of wanting to get the value of this, for the listeners. Again, a lot of people working out, what's the best way of doing my capital stack, senior debt, mezzanine, second charge, equity. They mightn't have the equity, you need to go and find it, etc., etc. So, yeah, just maybe talk us through how you end up structuring this one in terms of your capital stack.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so for those that don't know, you've got your traditional debt finance or development finance, which will hold the first charge on the site. That's generally your kind of cheapest finance. So in this case, I think we got all the build cost funded and around 450, I think it was, towards the purchase. So that was the kind of debt side. Then we had the equity proportion, which is actually split into some of my own funds. So we funded, I think, 150K in total now of my own funds. And then we had a separate equity proportion, which I had a couple of investors who wanted to invest in it. But as mentioned there, we went through simple crowdfunding for FCA compliance side of things, bringing multiple people through as investors. As well as some additional investors on the scheme as well. So we've got 14 total investors on the project, and we've raised close to 450,000 towards the project as part of the equity requirement. So,
I think it's fair to say, obviously, we're not giving any amounts out, but at least 2 of the investors in the equity were SaaS clients.
correct.
As I understand it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't mind saying that one of them was pretty much £250,000, and then the other one was another sort of 6-figure sum. So they were both SaaS clients, both people I've known and sort of watched me for the past year or two. Then said, I want to get involved, and I said, well, unless you've got kind of $500,000 to hit in one go, we need to bring multiple people in here. So that was a kind of starting point of pooling some money together and putting it through an FCA compliant platform.
Yeah, and just for clarity there, if anyone's not quite sure what James alluding to there, the collective investment scheme, part of the regulation is you can't have any more than one passive investor into an SPV. If you have any more than one, then it is a collective investment scheme, and you need to have a sort of a regulation. I call it an umbrella sometimes, but basically, particularly if you're dealing with any retail investors, you need the investment pitch approved as a financial promotion, and effectively crowdfunding, which is what simple crowdfunding do in this case on the equity. You could say it's a legal collective investment scheme, or it's a pooling of funds in a regulated environment. So James was able to take advantage of that. Your actual investment pitch that you then sent out was obviously approved by simple crowdfunding as a financial promotion. That protects you in terms of you're only distributing what's been approved by, effectively an FCA approved person, which I'm sure gives you a bit of comfort too, because you don't want to be out there on social media or talking to investors and not sure where the line is.
Absolutely, yeah. One of my biggest things is I'm running a business for the long term, and I want to make sure things are done right, and I don't get anything sort of come back to, bite me in the rear in the future. So yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah. Okay. So by way of sort of wrapping up in terms of your journey, you obviously didn't start off in property, you moved into property. If you look back now, were you done anything different, or any sort of key takeaways to someone who was just starting out their journey as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have done much different. I mean, I had I had a small business partnership at one point, which I probably wouldn't have done if I could roll back the dice. But I think that allowed me to learn a lot as well of how I wanted to go, forward with things. So I think for me, the biggest kind of key takeaway is I think, don't run before you can walk in property and development. I think some people are trying to do too big a development too soon and essentially don't really understand what the situation is. And that's when people get stung, both developers and investors. I think we're kind of having a natural progression of growth in our projects. And I mean, even lenders, they won't lend against the scheme if they can't see the experience there, either from a developer or the contractor or whatever it might be. So I think, kind of cut your teeth on schemes and work your way up. Depending on what your goals are. Some people may not want to do developments and may just want to go and keep flipping houses for the rest of their life. It's kind of what is your goals, and yeah, don't run before you can walk.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I'm going to give both you and Todd sort of one sentence each, just as we wrap up in a few minutes. So if you both can just stay on, that was a really good, I think, sort of glimpse into your life at the minute, James, and particularly in terms of this project, but just what you've accomplished. And it's always been great, sort of every time we've met up or we're having conversations. I love your sort of methodical approach to what you do, and that comes across, in what you presented today and how the team operates, which is great. So. Okay, just before we wrap up then for today, let me sort of announce effectively, and you're gonna hear more about this on the social media over the next couple of days. But what we have is we're going to start unveiling those people who we have got an arrangement with. We're calling them our funding partners. That we, as part of PropFundrs, can bring our clients to if they need a certain type of funding. So you've heard simple crowdfunding mentioned. We've actually introduced a number of different clients to simple crowdfunding on the equity side. They also do debt. It's interesting the SaaSes were mentioned there. It's another interesting source of potential funding for both the debt side and the equity side. If we stick on the left-hand side, Brick Owner, the guys over there specialize in equity, but only to high net worth and sophisticated investors. So they have an alternative investment fund management license, and I've had a number of meetings with them, and they offer a way of structuring a project for high net worth sophisticated investors. Moving on to the right hand side, Crowd Property at the bottom, probably the best known sort of crowdfunding, using that term sort of loosely. Most of their funds now come not from crowdfunding per se, but from institutional lending, but certainly very high profile. Mike Bristow's a great guy, does great market updates. We stay in touch from time to time. We're now able to bring business to them. I know they were quite happy that because we have ourselves and the team I have been involved as an FCA approved person, have been involved in bringing 24 projects through sort of FCA regulated compliant journey for crowdfunding. They were very happy that if we bring a project to them, they know it's going to be of a certain standard, which is going to save them time in terms of onboarding. So looking forward to working with them. And then also Ian Humphreys and the team over at Brickflow. I'm absolutely delighted with this one. You'll see this added to our homepage, where people can go on, developers can go on, actually put in their information and literally test the senior debt market in terms of terms. And that's going to be a very interesting addition to what we can do with PropFundrs. So they offer a very interesting service. So that's the first four. We've got about 9 at the minute. So we thought we'd just sort of introduce you to the first 4 on this webinar, but you'll be hearing more as we go along, and more focus on these. But it's very exciting for us to be able to bring various clients to them. On top of that, for anyone who's getting our newsletter, you would have had a wee snippet of our intro to the Property Funding Podcast, is what it's been called. Todd's actually assisting me with that. He does podcasts for a number of people in the property space, and we've shot a number of clients, Todd. A couple of days filming, which has all been good fun. Yeah, we're literally like, more or less finished up, Todd. The first I think 2 or 3 are already all cut, ready to go. I'll be
Yeah,
hitting.
first ones are ready to go. We're gonna hopefully, well, obviously give them to you guys to upload, I think, in your community, and then obviously go with the launch on the Spotify and YouTube. But obviously, yeah, there's nothing on them just yet.
That's a really good point. Thank you for reminding me. Completely forgot about that. As part of our fundraiser community, for those developers who have paid to become part of our inner team, we're actually going to upload the podcast to your back office on our website first before we put it onto Spotify and YouTube. So if you're a member of our fundraiser community, for those if you've paid to join our community, you will have access to these podcasts first before anybody else does. Just an extra benefit for being a member of the community. There is, of course, a YouTube channel still there with about 130 pieces of content. A lot for me, John Corey, when he co-hosted a lot of stuff that we did, all there. Some of that will be taken off and made private for the fundraiser community, but it's still live and active at the minute. But you're going to see a lot more on that. And in fact, I think the next plan is Todd's going to be flying to Northern Ireland in the next week or two, and I have about 5 people lined up that I want to have on the podcast. And this is from people who have made literally tens of millions in property, through to people very high profile on social media in Northern Ireland, through different developers. So you're going to enjoy, Todd, coming to Belfast, enjoying our hospitality for a couple of days, and doing a lot of filming.
First time in Ireland, so it should be a bit of fun. And
No,
we are looking
you'll
for podcast guests, I guess, as well. So if anyone is interested, I guess get in contact with David, and that should be good, because we need to build up the guest list.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, and that could be north or south. So even if someone's in Dublin, we can take a run down there. But yeah, so looking forward to that. So anyway, just people can be aware of that. So look, that takes us to now. The intention is second Wednesday of every month will be our PropFundrs Community Webinar. There's still some fundraiser community Zoom calls that will be happening, and that's again for those within the community, those paid members of developers, where it'll be on a Zoom call where everyone's obviously on screen, and we deep dive into some stuff. I know, Todd, I'm going to have you do a session, a bit more Q&A, so those for the fundraiser community members will have a chance to really pick your brain on stuff that's relevant to them. I know we've got that scheduled in the next, I think, about 2 weeks time. But yeah, so that's today. So I'll leave it with James. James, you want to go first and just a wrap up? Any key takeaways, predictions, crystal balls for the market, whatever you feel you want to share before dropping off?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think what happened this year in the market will be interesting, with obviously mortgage rates potentially coming down, maybe not. And I think a lot of people struggled over the past year or two, so I think we'll see a lot more sites that are defaulting, or more opportunities for developers coming along as well, and maybe a bit more sensible pricing from vendors as well. We can always hope. So yeah, that's my kind of the year of opportunity, hopefully.
Brilliant. Okay, sounds excellent. Todd, any last sort of takeaways?
Post on social media. Figure out what your brand's going to be, and just start getting some posts. If that's if you're looking to build a brand and something over the next 5 to 10 years, the first day is the hardest, but it will pay dividends down the line. It's like going to the gym. First day is always the hardest, getting in there, but if you can do it consistently for a couple years and eat right and do the right things, it's easy to maintain, and it will really help you with everything else that you're doing. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. There, to answer a question that was in the chat there, yes, this is recorded, and it'll go on the YouTube channel, but it'll also be sent out with our next newsletter. But my details are on there. You can reach out to me directly if you want a recording sooner. It was someone who tuned in late, and they want to go back and hear that. But yes, it'll be on the YouTube channel, but also the link will be sent out with the next newsletter. So that just remains for me to say thanks very much, everyone, for joining. I'm absolutely delighted with the numbers who were on live. There'll be a lot who'll want the recording of obviously traveling, working, wherever today. But it's been great to interact. Absolutely delighted, Todd. Brilliant session on social media and that whole opening people's minds up. So I think that's something that we can deep dive in as we go along. And James, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to give us an idea of the life of a property developer. So see one more question popping in. That's okay. Fine on that. So with that, I will say thanks to everyone. See you again next month. Wish you every success. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.